So all the counties can make their own rules for their tax lien certificate. So now, nationwide, there's over 3,000 counties. About 1,500 of those will sell tax lien certificate. So you need to check on that before you start to buy.
Hey, thanks a lot for joining us for this Q&A session on how to buy tax liens. This, of course, is Ted Thomas, the America's authority on tax lien and tax deed. Good to see you again, Ted. Ted, we have a lot of questions that your team has taken from a lot of people who have written in through Twitter, through LinkedIn, you name it. But they have to have questions. Ted, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Let's rock and roll. First question, this comes from Ricardo, and he was on Twitter. Ricardo wants to know, what are tax lien certificates and how do they work?
Okay, so what's a tax lien certificate? It's nothing more than a piece of paper that was issued by a local government. So let me go through the process. In about half of the states in the United States, the counties are authorized to sell a tax lien certificate. Now, why would they sell that certificate? Well, what really happened is the people that owned a property in that, now it could have been a farm, it could have been a empty residential lot, it could have been a home, they didn't pay their tax. So when they didn't pay the tax, all of those counties are benevolent counties. They're really nice to the people. What they could do is they could take the property away, but they don't do that. They say, we're not going to take that property away. We're going to issue a tax lien certificate, which is nothing more than a piece of paper like I'm holding in my hand. All right, now that piece of paper allows anybody worldwide can come in and pay that person's taxes. Now, why would you pay someone else's tax? You would pay someone else's taxes because when they finally do come in to pay, they're going to have to pay a penalty. They're going to have to pay an interest. All right, so you pay late on your master charge, guess what? You're going to pay high interest on that. So it's the same thing with a tax certificate. So when you come in to pay your tax certificate because you are late on your taxes, you have to pay the taxes and you have to pay the high interest. So a tax certificate is just a piece of paper. The county that issued it is giving you kind of a second chance. They don't kick you out of the property. They say, look, we issued a certificate. Come in and pay it anytime you want. That's called redeem the certificate. So anybody can redeem their certificate day one, or sometime they could stay outstanding for as long as 3 years.
Hey, and Ted, when you talk about they have to pay, interest on that. So as the investor, as the person buying the tax lien, I'm getting that interest, right?
If you buy the tax lien certificate, that's the whole motivation for you to buy, because you're not only going to get your money back, but you're going to get a high interest on your money. The banks are only paying 1 or 2%.
Wow, that sounds really good. Next question, this comes from Pavel. He was on LinkedIn and he wants to know this. What are the potential returns on investment with tax lien certificates?
Okay, well, the returns on tax lien certificates are outrageous, okay? All right, so this is the motivation. People go to tax lien certificate auctions where there's thousands of certificates. Let me just give you an idea how big a business this tax lien certificate business is. This happens to be a newspaper that's just issued in Tampa, Florida, and it has thousands of tax lien certificates. That means that this particular county in Tampa, Florida, is going to give a list of these certificates to all the certificates that haven't been paid. I'm going to move around in my chair a little bit. All right, so there's thousands and thousands. All right, this newspaper alone has more than 25,000 certificates that anybody can buy. So anybody can raise their hand, say, I want to buy that one right there, and they can buy that. What they do is they buy this certificate, they give the money to the county, and when they give the money to the county, they're now going to earn, in Florida, up to 18% on that certificate. So you see, the people that are buying tax certificates, if they go to the bank with their money, 2, 3, 4%, whereas they buy a tax certificate, they could earn all the way up to 18%.
That's a really good return on your investment. I have another question here from Beth. Beth was on Twitter, and Beth wants to know, how can I participate in tax lien certificate auctions?
Okay, anybody can participate in the auction. Okay, so the county will issue a list of all the tax lien certificates available. So I mentioned a list in that newspaper. Here's another newspaper. This one happens to be from Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, so the county's going to list them in the newspaper, thousands of certificates, and they're going to list them on their website. Okay, now here's what you need to know. You need to know that you can go to the county, find it on their list, or you can go to a local newspaper. Now you know the list is there. All right, so now there's 2 places that are very easy in your county. Now, this is all over the United States now. So half of the counties in the United States sell these certificates. The states pay different amounts of money. For example, here in Florida, you can earn all the way up to 18%. In Arizona, next to California, you can earn up to 16%. However, in Iowa, up to 24%. And in Illinois, all the way up to 36%. Now, I didn't name all the states, but you're getting the idea. So you have to do a little bit of study, and you can find all the information right on the county website.
And auctions, they're both online and in person, correct, Ed?
Yeah, they do online and offline. Depends on the county. In the past, when I started 30 years ago, everything was offline, and slowly it's transitioned to online. However, some counties will do both. So you have to go to the county records, you have to learn to research and find out, are they going to be offline or online?
All right, let's look at our next question, Ted. This comes from Ricky. Ricky was on Twitter, and Ricky asks, how can I perform due diligence on tax lien certificates prior to purchase? And I know you're big on this.
Okay, well, you're absolutely right. I'm big on this because people make huge mistakes. Okay, this is a business that has risk, like going to work in your car has risk. You have to pay attention to the other cars. You have to pay attention to the speed limit. You have to pay attention. So when it comes time to buying an investment, you want to pay attention and you want to do research. So some people will make this big mistake. They will go and get the newspaper, which had 25,000 tax certificates, and just start buying. They don't go and look at it. All right, so let me give you an example of that. So I'm a big advocate. If I'm going to buy something, I'm going to have boots on the ground. I'm going to go walk there and see what's there. Why? Because I want to see what's there. And in real estate, location, 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 right? So if the property is a bad property, it's worn out, the roof is falling down, there's not very good property, okay, I probably wouldn't want to do that. But what if it was a good property, but it was in a bad neighborhood? So I'm going to check the neighborhood. My point is, if you don't look and see what you're buying, I think you're taking a huge risk. So I believe that you should research anything that you buy. I jokingly say, guys, you wouldn't marry the gal unless you had seen her. Same thing with you, ladies. And by the way, 60% of my clients are women. Ladies, you wouldn't marry the guy without looking at him either. So let's not buy real estate, whether it's tax liens or tax deeds, without having a look.
All right, Ted, next question. This comes from Lily. Lily was on YouTube. How does the bidding process work in tax lien certificate auctions?
With tax lien certificates, let's just use Florida for example. The highest, all bids will start at 18%. The next bid will be 17.5. After that, it'll be 17. Then it'll be 16.5. It's a down bid process. Lowest bidder gets the tax lien certificate. If you've ever gone to an auction, most auctions, highest bidder gets it. Well, when you're buying real estate, it's highest. Well, we're not buying real estate when we buy a tax certificate. We're buying a piece of paper with an interest rate. You're not buying real estate. You're getting a piece of paper. You don't own that real estate. You can't go on that real estate. You can't charge rent on the real estate. You can't kick the people out of that real estate. The people stay in the real estate. When those counties sell tax lien certificates, they're benevolent. They let the people stay in the property. They don't kick them out. So you're not getting a property unless they don't pay.
And it's kind of funny because you said, usually auctions, it goes up. These auctions comes down. And that's because I'm saying I'm willing to make this investment for less of a return. Is that correct?
Right. Whoever's willing to make this at the least return is who the county's going to sell it to. And why they do that? Because again, they're protecting the homeowner. The county is always trying to protect that homeowner. They want that homeowner to stay in that property forever. And so that homeowner is given up to 3 years to pay off all these taxes. All right. So if the interest rate is low, well, they're not incentivized. Okay. Well, if the interest rate's high, then they're incentivized to pay right now.
Makes sense. All right, Ted, we have a question from Joe, and Joe was also on YouTube. Joe asks, does the redemption period for tax lien certificates vary by state? And where can I find that type of information?
Okay, well, always to find information, and this is an always answer, is you can find information about tax liens, tax lien certificates, tax developer. Don't be afraid to go to the county records. Go in there. They've got all kinds of information about it. So you can find that. You can find a certain amount of it with an auction brochure, and you can find a little bit of it in the newspapers where they publish it. But most of it, or all of it, is at the county records. So if you want to learn about the bidding process, they'll tell you what that process is for that county. And all the counties are different. All right, now let me give you an example. All the counties are different. You take Maryland as a state. So Maryland only has a few counties, less than 10 counties in the state. But you could go to one county and the tax lien certificates pay 12%. You go right next door and they pay 24%. Well, going next door might be drive 2 blocks down the street and you're in a different county. All right, so all the counties can make their own rules for their tax lien certificate. So now, nationwide, there's over 3,000 counties. About 1,500 of those will sell tax lien certificate. So you need to check on that before you start to buy.
Can you give us an idea of how the redemption periods, how they might be changing? Like, what's the range?
The range on redemption is 2 years is the shortest. 3 years is about the longest I've seen.
Okay. Roger has the next question, Ted, and he was on LinkedIn. Roger's question is, what happens if a tax lien certificate is not redeemed by the property owner?
Well, here's one of the reasons why a lot of people get in this business. Okay, here's how the business works. When they have a tax lien certificate, a certificate for sale, piece of paper, they put it out to the public in the newspaper and on the website. So if you buy that certificate, the one you want, you buy it, and the people never pay you, well, the county's made a covenant to you in the certificate. The covenant is a promise that if you don't get paid, you get the property. All right, now, we actually teach people, and we have people that do this. They just buy the certificate, and then they go home, get next to their bed, and they pray that the certificate is never paid for. If the certificate's never paid for, you're going to get the property.
We're coming down the stretch, Ted. Damar has a question. He was on Twitter. What are the risks associated with investing in tax lien certificates?
Okay, everything has risk. Everything. Driving to work has risk. Sleeping in your bed, you have risk. There's always risk. Okay, so the risks on tax lien certificates are, number one, you don't know what you bought. So there's a lot of people get the list. They go, I want that one. Well, you don't want that one. You want to go look at it or have someone look at it. There's lots of ways to look online. There's a lot of people you can hire to look. The point is, you want to know what you're buying. So that's risk number one. Risk number two is economic risk. Okay, so if it's a certificate that could pay 24% like in Iowa, and you bid it all the way down, and it's only making a very small percentage, that's a big risk. Why do you want to invest your money if you're going to make a small percentage? All right, so there's two big risks right there. All right, now that's just two. All right, if you haven't looked, what's there? What if it's a bad property? If it's a bad property, the people aren't going to come in and pay the tax. If they're going to don't come in and pay the tax, now you're going to get a bad property. Did you want a bad property? I mean, why would you invest and get a bad property? You wouldn't. All right, so that's the risk. The risk is, all right, that you're not going to make money because the bidding comes down too much, or that you didn't get a good property. So you need to do what's called due diligence, inspections, and understand it's an investment. It's not, some game you're going down there with a whole bunch of people bidding. It's serious business.
Things you have to learn. It's not an overnight thing. You have to be serious about the business. You have to learn about it.
Right.
All right, Sheila. Sheila was on YouTube. Can someone finance the purchase of a tax lien certificate? Can you finance that purchase?
To my knowledge, you can't finance them, at least with the county. And I don't think a bank will want to finance it, but other individuals might do that. But I would say the answer, as a blanket answer, is no, you can't finance tax lien certificates.
Does that mean you got to pay with, immediately cash then, or a check, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a better question. Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to go to an auction, you have to have the equivalent of cash. In other words, it's got to be like a bank check, or it's got to be actual cash. Now, most of them are going to tell you they don't want cash today. They're going to say, because they're all concerned about a lot of other things, but they don't want cash. So they're going to tell you in the rules for the auction, it will say how they want the money. Now, tax liens business has got so sophisticated, people now wire the money to the county. When the county takes the money, they use the money. When the people come in and pay their tax, then they wire the money back, and you get a notice on your cell phone. It's that sophisticated.
Last question, Ted. This comes from Chong. Chong was on Instagram. how can I find out what states sell tax lien certificates?
All of the states have the information, okay? So you can go to the individual states and do that. All right, so once you get to the county records, every different county will have a list of the rules for the auction, and they'll tell you how much money the tax liens will pay, and they'll give you cautions. In other words, they'll do frequently asked questions about the auction. So you can get all of that from each individual county, and there's well over 3,000 counties that'll give you the information.
Well, what tell us more about that free gifts you were talking about?
Well, that's right below me. They can go right below me and they get this interactive map and see that, and they can have fun with their cursor. They will actually show you where the auctions are taking place, okay, at each one of the individual counties, and it'll show us properties that are going to be sold. It's an electronic calendar that we actually add to our programs when we sell it, but they can get a free gift so they can test it out.
Well, Ted, thanks so much for answering these questions, and all of you, thanks so much for writing the questions. Make sure to take advantage of that free gift Ted is offering right below in the description. Hit the link, take advantage of it. Thanks for watching.